Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I am so excited to share with you my makeup inventory, and I know that a lot of you are excited to see it too because I've had a few nudges here and there of people saying, where's your end of the year makeup inventory? Will you be sharing with us your makeup categories and the counts of your makeup collection? And yes, that is all happening in today's video. So we're going to be going category by category through my makeup collection, and we're going to be talking some serious stats. So I'm going to tell you exactly what every single category is looking like today. I'm going to share with you pictures of what the products are that I have in each of those categories as well. But I'm taking it a step further, and we're going to be talking about some statistics as well. I did this in my mid-year inventory check-in, and it was something that was very insightful for me and I found very interesting, and I know that some of you did as well. So we're going to be talking about the numbers in comparison to January 2022, the very beginning of this year. We're going to talk about how many products I have acquired in each category as well. So purchases, PR, gifts, whatever, if it came into my life, it counts in the acquired category. We're going to talk about how many products in each category I emptied, and then we're going to also talk about how many products I decluttered. And then at the end of today's video, I have numbers for each of those kind of list items right there. I do want to get all into the stats. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of today's video. So I'm gonna put a pause on the rambles. We're gonna get right on freaking into it because I am so excited. So yeah, let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with the primer category. At the beginning of this year, I had 7 items in this category, and that did feel a little overwhelming. A lot of them were similar types of primer, so there was a lot of overlap in my collection. I have recently acquired 1 product in this category as well. I have actually emptied 2 this year, which is great. They were 2 that were relatively older in my collection, so that feels so good. I did decide to declutter 1 this year too, and so currently I'm sitting at 5 primers in my collection. For the most part, these are things that I feel like have not been used that thoroughly yet, so I don't have major progress on any of them. So I foresee for 2023 that I'm really gonna have still 4 to 5 in my collection for the majority of the year, but I really don't want to bring any more in because, again, I still am feeling like I have a lot of overlap. I don't really need the variety that I do have currently. So yeah, that's something that I do want to improve, but I am happy to see that that number has come down and that I've actually used up some products from that as well. For Tinted Moisturizer, I kicked off this year with 2. I have neither acquired, emptied, or decluttered any of them, so I currently still have the same exact 2. And throughout this year, I feel like I've made really great progress on both of them, and I foresee myself actually being able to finish them off in the new year relatively easily, I think, because they both have really good progress already, and they are things that I really enjoy reaching for. I'm wearing one of them today. Love it. For foundations, I kicked off the year with 8 freaking foundations. Like, way too much for my personal preferences. I am a sheer light coverage gal these days for sure, so having 8 foundations was just far too much variety for a category that I just don't ever reach for. So I haven't acquired any, which is great. That is something that I was very mindful and very cognizant of. I didn't want to bring any more in because it's not my preference anymore. And I did empty 2, which is fabulous. One of them was a full size and it was more of a medium to full coverage. And the other one was just a kind of deluxe size sample. It was more of a sheer coverage, but I'm glad to have 2 moved out of my collection through using them up. I did actually decide to declutter 3 of them, and now I'm left with just 3 foundations. It feels like I have still kind of too much variety for what I need and what I prefer, but I'm happy to see that number come down, and the 3 that I do have, I do enjoy as well. For concealer and color corrector, I started off this year with 4 products in that category. I have actually acquired 2 through this year, one of which I don't even know really where it should lie in my inventory, but it's an under eye brightener. So it doesn't actually have any kind of pigmentation, any sort of color, but I decided to kind of lump it in as a color corrector. And then the other one was a concealer as well. It was kind of like an all over the face sort of coverage product actually. But anyways, I emptied 2 this year, both through my project pan, which is great. I'm so happy about that. And I did decide to declutter one of my concealers this year as well. But currently I have 3. So I am really happy with where this is at. I have the 2 that I've acquired and just one other concealer that I brought into 2022 with me. And I foresee myself being able to finish that one in 2023. Perhaps not the other 2, but this is a category that I'm very, very pleased with. Right now, I'm actually using a foundation stick as my concealer these days. It's the Mera one, and it's working all right for that, so I've just been using it in that way. When it comes to loose powder, I kicked off this year with 2 loose powders in my collection, both of which were hella old, and I was so motivated to bring this number down, so I did not acquire any. I emptied one through my project pan, which was the Too Faced one. I have not decluttered one, and I just have one remaining, the same one that I had started off the year with, the Revolution one. I'm really happy to see that number at 1. It is a category that I do reach for very frequently. It is something that I like to have in my collection, and so once I use that one up, I'll likely purchase something else in its place. But yeah, 1 is definitely ideal for me. For pressed powder, I kicked off this year with 3 of them in my collection. Those 3 are products that I have had continuously in my makeup inventory. They are just products that I've had for years and years and years. I was never really bringing new pressed powders into my collection, but I wasn't using up the ones that I had. But this year I have actually acquired 2, but that is because I had used up all 3 of the pressed powders that I had lurking over me for years. And so we've basically reset this collection because I did not declutter any of the 2 that I brought in. I just have those 2 new ones in my life now. One is a translucent one and the other is a kind of tinted one. So I feel like I'm covering all my bases with those 2 pressed powders. And I'm really, really happy to see this category pretty much like reset. I've started anew with it and it just feels like I have the perfect variety within this. I don't foresee myself really bringing other pressed powders into my collection because they're just not something that I find that fun to buy or to try, to be honest. For setting sprays, I kicked off this year with 2 of them, and I did acquire 1 this year, but that's because, again, I finished up the 2 that I started off the year with. So I haven't decluttered any, but I just have the one that I ended up bringing into my life, I believe in like September. So I'm really happy with where that category is. I foresee myself potentially wanting to bring in maybe 1 more setting spray, potentially. I don't know. I don't have something that's like a stronghold, long-lasting kind of setting spray. The one that I have is more of a hydrating kind of finishing spray. So there is room for the potential of 1 more setting spray coming into my life, but as it stands right now, especially given that we're in the winter season, I don't feel any sort of need for something that's long wearing, but maybe that will be the case eventually, and I'm open to it. I'm definitely okay with having like 2 setting sprays in my life. This next category is one that I didn't actually technically speak about in my makeup inventory in January. It is samples. So these are those small blister packs that you get a handful of uses of a product to try out. I had 6 technically like individual blister packs in January, but I had decided to put that into a different category. But when I was reevaluating my collection at the mid-year point, I felt like it just was not an accurate representation. So I decided to add a sample category at that time. So technically speaking, let's say in January, I had 6 products in this category. I have since acquired 5, and silly me, I haven't used up any of those samples that I have. I haven't decluttered any. I'm still holding on to them. So now I have 11 samples. I definitely want to work my way through at least a couple of them in the new year, but I do have this like internal struggle when it comes to samples because they're sealed up. They're perfectly sealed. They're not going bad by being contained in their packaging. But as soon as I open them up, they are gonna go bad. And I do feel like a sense of urgency to use them up because, you know, you don't really want to have like an open blister pack living in your collection or in your drawers or wherever for a serious amount of time because it could be messy, they could go bad, all those things. So I have this conflict where I'm like, maybe I don't want to use those samples because I have all of these already open, already needing to be used other full-size products in my collection. But I also don't want to just be like living with these samples for years as I finish up my collection. So I need to kind of make a switch in my mentality about that. I just want to work through maybe even 1 to 2 of those sample packs in the new year. Let's move on into mascara. Let's talk about mascara. I actually started off this year with only 2, which I'm kind of surprised by. When I was looking back on the numbers, I was like, really? I only had 2 mascaras? That feels like that never happens for me. But over the year, I acquired 11. I acquired 11 mascaras. Some of those were mini sizes. Quite a few of them actually were. And I did work my way through 8 of my mascaras. So right now I have 5 products in this category, 2 of which are open. One is actually a lash primer. I decided to kind of just add that into that category instead of adding a lash primer category just for now because I didn't have that at the beginning of the year. I am totally okay with having 5 mascaras because I will work my way through them. It's nice to have a backup on hand for whenever the mascara does end up turning. So yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I know I'll work my way through all of them for sure. Potentially all of them next year. I don't foresee myself bringing them into 2024 with me, but who knows. Moving on to brows. I started off this year with 6 brow products, and you may or may not know that I've been on a brow product no-buy this year, but I did end up acquiring one. It's just a tiny, teeny, itty bitty little mini. It is actually something that I got as a gift with purchase from Sephora, and I did end up emptying 2 of my brow products this year, and I did decide to declutter one of them as well this year. It just was something that was not really suiting my needs, my wants, my coloring, anything like that. And currently I have 4 products still in this category, and I'm very happy with the 4 that I do have. One is a pomade, the other ones are just clear gels, and this feels sufficient for me and my needs right now. Now we're moving into the colored complexion or colored cheek products. In the future, I don't think that I want to categorize these the same way that I do now, but I wanted to keep some consistency with January's numbers and previous year's numbers. So you know, this might be something that I reset in 2023 when I share my makeup inventory in the future. But for now, we're going to be talking about these in powder or panned products versus liquid and cream. But eventually, I think I just want to merge those categories together to get a more accurate representation of what I truly have. Yes, I could definitely just talk about these in groupings as well today, but regardless, we're talking about powder versus liquid and cream for all of these categories. So anyways, powder bronzer. I kicked off the year with 8 products in this category, and I was actually really happy to see I have not acquired anything, although I'm notoriously in love with bronzer. I always have had this affinity for bronzer. I really enjoy it as a part of my makeup routine. But I haven't brought any in this year, which is great. Nothing through PR or through my own purchasing. It's fabulous actually to see that I still am enjoying the bronzer collection that I do have. I did empty one very recently. That's a little bit of a preview for my project pan, but I did post it on my stories, so you've seen it already. And then I did decide to declutter 3 of my bronzers this year, and I'm really happy that I never ended up trying to like replace those products, because that's the mentality I've definitely had in the past where it's like, oh, well, I got rid of 2, I might as well get another one. Like I have space for 1 now. And I never ended up replacing them, which is fabulous. So now I actually only have 4 products in this category. 3 of those are like single individual pans of bronzer, and another one is in a face duo from Charlotte Tilbury. So 4 bronzers. That's wonderful. I think that's great. For liquid and cream bronzer, I do have obviously additional options through this category as well. I kicked off this year with 3 of them. I have not acquired anything in this category either, which is amazing. And I did end up using up 1 product from this category, and I haven't decluttered anything from this category either. And I don't foresee myself wanting to declutter either of the 2 options that I now have. So yeah, my number now is only 2 in this category, which is great. You know what? Maybe actually, let's backtrack. Maybe I will eventually want to declutter the milk one, just given that it is so old at this point. But I don't want to declutter it yet. And you saw that I talked about it in my products I want to pan in 2023 video. So yeah, that's something I'm going to be using a heck of a lot, and maybe it will be decluttered in the new year, but definitely not in the beginning parts of the new year, and definitely not until it's like truly expired, because I love that product so much. So moving on to the powder blushes as well, like the pans of powder blushes that I have. I kicked off the year with 8 products in this category, and through my project pan, I have been rotating through my blush collection this year, which is really good, but I have not been able to empty any, even though there is one that has been on my radar to finish for years. It's that Essence Satin Touch blush. But I'm happy I didn't end up acquiring any this year either. I didn't bring any into my collection, which is good because I still feel like I have so many blushes to use up. Like, blush lasts a long time, a long time. You can wear a heck of a lot of it and it still seems to just never ever end. I did declutter one of my blushes from my collection this year, and I currently have 7 in this category, which is all right with me. Again, one of them I really do want to work my way through very soon. I think it will be an early 2023 empty for me. And otherwise, there's not a lot of progress on the remainder of that kind of category in my collection. So I'm probably gonna have 6 for a while, and that's okay as long as I don't continue to see this category grow in the upcoming years. I would like to just see it either remain the same or slowly diminish, but through using them up. I don't actually foresee myself wanting to declutter any of the ones that I do currently have, unless they do end up going bad on me. I guess that would be the only reason I declutter any of them. And while 7 powder blushes would take me an eternity to use up, I do still have quite a bit more variety through my liquid and cream blush collection as well. So yeah, quite a lot of blushes in my life. I started off this year with 11 products in my liquid and cream blush collection. I have since acquired 4, even though I definitely did not need to see that number increase in any way, shape, or form. But one is just a kind of a mini. I got it as a gift with purchase. 2 of which are PR that I have not yet opened, and I am so antsy to open, but I just can't do it until I finish up one that's currently in my project pan. And another one I did receive in PR as well this year. I haven't emptied any, but I am so close on that bite one. You'll see the pan looks like virtually barren at this point. And I did decide to declutter 3 cream blushes throughout the entirety of this year. So I currently am at an surplus. I actually am over my numbers for this category from where I was in January, and I'm currently at 12 cream blushes in my collection, although I am so close to finishing one up. So this will be back to 11 very soon, but not quite yet. I'm not quite there to share that with you as an empty yet. I don't want to count it until it is a for certain thing. If I hadn't done this practice of counting out my makeup inventory, especially in comparison from the beginning of this year to the end of this year, I don't think I would have thought that my collection had grown, although it's only by 1. I still don't think that I would have even considered that at all. So this practice is always a good thing to do, just to kind of get an understanding of where you're at and to see how much things have changed as well. Moving right along into powder highlighters, this is a category that I don't feel as excited about these days as I used to in the past, but it is a category that I still have quite a lot in. So I started out this year with 14 products in this category, which is quite inflated. It's a little bit more than personally I need or want, especially because like I'm not wearing powder highlighter today. I don't oftentimes reach for powder highlighter these days, so it was far too many for me. I haven't acquired any in this category, which is great considering that it's not something that I need to have in my life. I don't need it in my routine, so I'm glad I haven't brought any more in. And I've actually used up 3 products from this category, which is fabulous. So happy about that. So happy to see that number minimized. And I did decide to declutter ones. So we're at 10 products in this category. These are individual pans of highlighter. I do have highlighter palettes as well, so let's talk about those 2. And in that category, at the beginning of the year, I had 3. I have not acquired any, I have not emptied any. It would be an impossible feat to empty them if you ask me, but maybe one day. But I did decide to declutter one of my highlighter palettes this year. So now I have 2 highlighter palettes in my collection, and those have a total of 7 pans of highlighter within them. I have been like going back and forth about decluttering the Makeup Geek and Kathleen Light's highlighter palette. I had actually decluttered it when I did that big declutter video at the beginning of this year. I decided it was time to part with it, but then I couldn't actually part with it. I brought it back into my collection, and I have only used it like 3 times, I think, since bringing it back into my life. And I've been like going back and forth thinking like, should I just declutter this? Like, why do I have this? I don't really reach for it, but I can't seem to part with it. So I still have that lingering in my life. And between my palettes and my individual highlighters, I have 17 pans of highlighters altogether, which is just far too many for my personal preferences. If you have 17 of anything in your life, you do you. I'm so happy if you're happy with that. That's cool. But it's too many for what I need and want and how I use highlighter these days, but I just can't seem to declutter them. So I can't be too upset with myself. I purchased them in a time when highlighter was trendy and I loved using it. It was something that I really enjoyed wearing, and I'm not upset about it at this point. It just is what it is. If I could part with them and bring that number down, I would, but I don't know what it is. I can't not part with them. So I have 17 highlighters at this point. That's just the story. That's just how it goes. For liquid and cream highlighter, however, this is a category that I do feel like I've been able to make really good progress on this year. I'm really happy with. I started out the year with 8 products in this category. I have not acquired any, which, believe me, has been difficult because I do feel very tempted by cream and liquid highlighters. I love liquid and cream highlighters so much, but I have variety. I have variety for sure within this category. So I've not brought any in. I've actually emptied 2. One of them was a full size, the other was a mini. So that is fabulous. And I did decide to declutter 2 products from this category throughout this year as well. So I'm currently living with just 4 products in my liquid and cream highlighters. 2 of them are quite large and have a lot of product in them. And then the other 2 are a little bit smaller. One is the other side of my Oma stick. And then I have a really small sample size of a Cover FX one that I need to work through very soon because it's hella old and there's so little product in it. But yeah, to have 4 products in this category, I feel like is okay. I do feel like this is a number that's in check, and I foresee that coming down as well next year to 3. And I think that's great. For lip liner, I kicked off this year with 8 products in this category, and I put myself on a lip liner no-buy because I had brought in, I believe, 3 at the end of last year through a mystery box for Melt, and I just don't tend to use lip liner that frequently, and definitely not to completion. So I haven't acquired any new ones this year because of that no-buy, and just because I know that I don't need any more. I have emptied one, which was a huge success for me. It was like a momentous occasion, quite honestly. It felt so good to finish up a lip liner. And I have decluttered 3 this year, some that were very, very old. So I currently have 4 in my collection, and I'm happy with this number. I could have 2 and be totally a-okay, but the 4 that I have are, you know, relatively newer, so they're going to be around for a while, and I do use them sometimes. I'm not gonna say frequently, but I do reach for them sometimes. And then moving into lip gloss and tinted lip balm. Okay, I kicked off this year with 9 products, and I was like, I kind of want to keep this around, you know, that 10 kind of mark, which is good. Good that I kind of had that in mind. Somehow, some way, I've acquired 9 lip glosses also this year. I think they were all through PR. I know I got some from Pacifica, and I've gotten quite a few from ColourPop. So I think they were all through PR in the later half of this year. But I've emptied 5. I've finished up 5 lip glosses for my collection, and I foresee myself being able to continue using, you know, 3, 4, possibly 5 moving forward. So that's good. And I did decide to declutter one that was not suiting my needs or wants or desires this year. So I'm currently at 12 products in this category. If I hadn't acquired those 9, I might have only 3 lip glosses. And while that is not the reality, that is something that is interesting to imagine, that I could have brought my collection down so much this year, but PR definitely did inflate that. And again, this is something that I can't seem to part with. Like, I haven't opened 2 of the Pacifica lip glosses, and yet I don't want to pass them off to someone. I do want to try them out and use them for myself. And then for liquid lipstick, I started off this year with 2. I think I had the same 2 for quite a while actually. Liquid lipstick is not my preference anymore. It's not a category that I enjoy, and the 2 that I had were getting up there in age. I've had them for a few years. I've not acquired any, I've not emptied any, and actually I decided this year to declutter both of the liquid lipsticks that I did have. And while I don't miss the formulation of the liquid lipsticks that I had in my life, and I'm happy to have that number be 0 for that category, I still do kind of want to find a bullet lipstick that is similar in color to ColourPop Point Zero. But I do have enough brown lipsticks, and we're going to talk about lipsticks in just a moment here, that I feel like I shouldn't be tempted. I should not be tempted to bring more products into my collection because I kind of have enough variety within my bullet lipsticks. So let's talk about that. I started out the year with 23 bullet lipsticks. That is quite a large number for me and my needs, but I do love having variety of different finishes, different colors, different experiences when it comes to lipsticks. Some are sheer, some are, more matte. I really, really do love lipstick. It's something so fun to play around with and so easy to play around with as well. I have brought in 4 through this year. 3 of them I did get as PR, and 1 of them I did actually get as a recent gift with purchase from an e.l.f. purchase, and you can see it's still in the box. I haven't opened it up yet, but I do need to open it up for the holiday season, so it's going to be something I wear very, very soon. I have emptied 3 lipsticks this year. That is huge for me. 3 lipsticks gone from my collection by actually using them up, and you know me, I dig into the bullet as well, so I used a lot of lipstick this year. I used a ton. I did decide to declutter 6 of my lipsticks that were getting up in age, things that were not my personal preference in terms of tone or texture. So I currently have 18 products in my lipstick collection, and let's just imagine for a moment that I was able to continue using up 3 a year. That would mean that it would take me 6 years to use up the lipsticks that I do have without bringing anything new into my collection. But if I'm realistic with myself, many of these lipsticks I won't finish up ever, because how could I finish up a green lipstick? How could I finish up, well, I guess I could, but like red lipsticks. Those are something that I do wear occasionally and I enjoy wearing and I like having as a part of my collection, but I'm not going to use them up entirely, and I know that for a fact. So this number I don't necessarily want to see increase, but in the new year I also don't want to see it decrease strictly through declutters. I really hope that this is something that I can manage by emptying out a few and then just keeping the other ones in the rotation and enjoying having that variety for years to come. I hope that makes sense, but I don't necessarily want to see this number always sitting around that 20 number. I do want to kind of bring this down to something like 15, but I do need to put in the work to make that happen. For eyeshadow primer, I started off this year with 3 products in this category. I was working on one very diligently through my project pan at the beginning parts of this year, and I have finished it. So I have 1 empty in this category. I've not brought anything into this category because it's not a very compelling category for me. It's not something that I feel interested in trying new from. I typically can use a concealer as an eyeshadow primer, and the shadow primer that I do have fits the bill just fine as an eyeshadow primer as well. So I currently have 2 products in this category. 1 is a glitter glue, 1 is a just traditional eyeshadow primer, and the glitter glue that I have is almost at the end of its life. I foresee myself being able to finish that at the very beginning of next year, if not sooner than that. And it will be something that I want to replace pretty much immediately because I love having a glitter glue to amp up metallics and to keep things from kind of falling out as well. It's kind of an essential step for my eye looks, in my opinion. Liquid and cream eyeshadows. This is a category that I no longer purchase. I don't really want to have in my collection that much anymore. It's something that, while they used to be a lot of fun for me, I do just want to use my regular eyeshadows these days, but I still started off the year with 7 products in this category, but I haven't acquired any because it's something that I just don't really feel like is a necessary addition to my collection these days. I had also emptied one, which is great. It was an older one in my collection, so I did finish that up. I have not decluttered any, so I currently have 6. 2 of these are in the same e.l.f. packaging. It's a double-ended product, so there are 2 liquid eyeshadows there. Don't want to see this category necessarily grow, but I don't foresee it actually going down in the new year through panning these, because I just don't foresee myself being able to finish any of them. They all have quite a bit of volume in them, but as long as I can keep this kind of in check, and you know, if they do end up going bad on me, that's unfortunate, but I'm not going to replace them when that ends up being the case. Moving into liquid and gel eyeliners. I started off this year with 3 products in this category. One was a brown, one was a black, one was a mustard that I had gotten in that Melt mystery box I alluded to a couple times now. I have acquired one this year because I did finish off the black liquid liner that I started off the year with. So that kind of just neutralized it out. I didn't declutter anything from this category, so I have 3 still. Again, just a different black eyeliner, but everything else remains the same. The number's the same type of variety. I just have a new black liquid liner instead, which is the flower one, and so far it's been good. It's been all right. Pencil eyeliners, I started off the year with 9 products in this category. I have brought 2 products into this category this year. They're both from Cheekbone Beauty, and they were both pretty much replacements for items that I had at the beginning of the year. One, the black, I had ended up decluttering because it went bad. It was a Milani eyeliner, so I've replaced it with a Cheekbone one. And then one I actually had used up, which was a mint kind of color, so I replaced it with a Cheekbone one as well. So as I said, I emptied only 1 eyeliner this year, which was that mint Annabelle one. I've decluttered 3 of my eyeliners this year because they had dried up. They were not suiting my needs, and they were really not usable actually either. So now I have 7 products in this category. I love the variety that I have. I really enjoy all the colors that I have, and yeah, I'm super happy with that number, but I can foresee it kind of coming down in the near future through using them up. It just is going to take me some serious effort. Most definitely going to take some effort. Eyeliners take a long time to use up. Is it just me? I don't know. I feel like they take forever. Eyeshadow singles. These are eyeshadows that came in individual pans, but there also are depotted ColourPop shadows that I've removed from all of their original pans and compiled into one magnetic pan together. So it's quite a mishmash of different types of eyeshadows that are in this category, but I started off the year with 91 individual single shadows in my collection. I really do enjoy the variety that I get within my eyeshadow collection, so I wasn't upset about that. It just is kind of like, it's an eye-opener to realize that you have nearly 100 individual pans living outside of palettes. But this year I have acquired 2 products in this category, and they're both ColourPop Super Shock shadows. One is actually, again, something that I had previously decluttered and then I brought back into my life. And then the other one is something that I did receive in PR. But I have finished up 2 of my individual pans of eyeshadow this year, which, although not amazing, not, you know, superb by any stretch of the imagination, I'm happy that at least I finished 2. It is a daunting task to finish up an eyeshadow, especially when you have the variety that I have. So I finished up 2. One was a Super Shock shadow, which is great. I didn't even have that in a project pan. And the other one I recently finished up, that's in my current project pan. So yeah, you'll be seeing that empty soon. And for decluttering single eyeshadows, I was very, very, very diligent with this. I decluttered a lot this year. I went through and eliminated some of the repeats, some of the very old ones in my collection, things that I wasn't using, didn't want to use, and would not like to have rolled into my pan, those eyeshadows project pan. So I decluttered 18 products from this category, which is quite a lot. But now I'm at 73 individual eyeshadows, and that still is a huge number. But I'm okay with that. I do like the variety of my eyeshadow collection, like I've said many, many times before. And yeah, I still have eyeshadow palettes outside of that, but I am very, very happy with the variety, the textures, the tones that I have. And then when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, I kicked off this year with 20 eyeshadow palettes, which again is a lot of variety. There's tons of eyeshadows within all of those palettes, but I love and enjoy all the palettes that I do have. So 20 starting off the year was not that bad at all. I have acquired 3 eyeshadow palettes this year, 2 of which I received in PR, 1 of which I did purchase for myself. It was the first eyeshadow palette that I've purchased since November of 2020. Previous to that, my most recent eyeshadow palette purchase was my Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, and this year the one and only eyeshadow palette that I purchased for myself was a little quad from Aether Beauty. But either way, that counts as an eyeshadow palette in my collection. I have not emptied an eyeshadow palette. I have never emptied an eyeshadow palette. It's just not something that is in the books for me. I don't think in any time soon, that's for sure. And I did decide to declutter 5 eyeshadow palettes from my collection this year, some of which were quite old. Others, I just wasn't really drawn to the color stories, and I was able to pass those off to other people in my life. And now I'm at 18 eyeshadow palettes, which is plenty of variety, so many eyeshadows. I believe I'm standing at just over 300 collective eyeshadows in my entire collection. I talked about that more at length in my eyeshadows I've hit pan on video, if you want to check that out to see all the eyeshadow usage that I have, everything that looks loved and adored on. But I also talked about my pan percentage in that video and exactly how many eyeshadows I have collectively. So that is a wrap on the category by category breakdown, but let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about the overarching numbers from the beginning of this year to the end of this year. So I started off this year with a grand total of 267 products in my collection. That doesn't count every individual pan of eyeshadow that I have in my palettes. That doesn't count every single individual pan of highlighter in my highlighter palettes. But regardless, that number was at 267 products. I have this year acquired 48 products through PR, through purchases, and through recluttering items. I did bring a few items back into my collection from previous declutters, so that counts as something that I acquired. But I have emptied 44 products this year, which is good. One of my goals this year was to actually bring in fewer items that I had emptied, and unfortunately, as it stands right now, that is not the case. But I have about 4 or 5 products that are on the verge of being emptied, and I foresee myself actually being able to use them up nearing the end of this year, if not at the very beginning of next year. So that number is pretty on par. Decluttered, I did declutter quite a vast amount of products. I ended up decluttering 55 products this year. I don't want to be doing that ongoing. That is a lot of makeup to get rid of, especially things that I wish that I had decided sooner in their life that they were something that I wasn't going to use up so that I could have passed them on. A vast majority of these products that I decluttered them at the point of expiration. They are way too old to give to someone else, and they had to unfortunately be trashed, which is yeah, something I feel like I'm growing and learning from for sure is if you don't bring in as much, you can actually try it out and get to know it and hopefully decide if it's something that I want to pass on to somebody or if it's something that I want to work my way through. And hopefully be more diligent with using things up moving forward. Grand total this year, at the end of the year, I now have 221 products. So I started off with 267 and now we're down to 221. So that is good. And like I said, I have 4 products that are almost empty. So by the end of this year, I could be under the 220 mark, which is great. I'm so happy about that. If you feel compelled, please let me know down in the comments if you're going to be doing a makeup inventory for the end of the year, what your numbers are like, how you're feeling about your makeup collection. We can definitely chat about that all down in the comment section. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone.